Imagine this. So by December of 2025, the average amount of time that someone spends on their phone is 7 hours a day. Yeah, 7 hours a day that people are on their phones. And if you're an introvert and you're always stuck in this on world, right, it doesn't just distract us, it actually drains us of our energy on a daily basis. So today I want to focus on how to strategically disconnect, protect your energy, and then reclaim some of your peace that you've been missing in this digital world where we all feel like we need to be connected. And I want to teach you how to do this without having any guilt whatsoever. So let's get into it. Let's start with what I call the invisible drain. It's the slow energy leak that most introverts don't notice until they hit a wall. So this could be something like you are fine all day, like you feel like you're making good progress on like throughout your hours and your work hours, and you're slowly making it through. And then like by quitting time or by the time you get in your car and drive home, like you are completely drained and it feels like you just lost everything from the beginning of the day till that point in time. And that's what happens when we slowly lose that energy and we're not necessarily aware of it at any given time. So first, there's always this trap that we need to be aware of, and it's the feeling that we always need to be on, right? If we're not actively posting or replying, right, you still are taking in this like constant stream of noise, notifications, work messages, group chats, social feeds, and even breaking news if you have like a news feeds up. So for introverts, the passive consumption can be just as exhausting as active engagement. And this is what can happen if your brain never gets to switch off, right? We're constantly stuck in this loop. The next is the problem of the tug of war between FOMO and JOMO. So we don't want to ever feel like we're missing out on things. So like we're always going to be in the apps that we want to be in on our phones. We always want to refresh them. We want to stay plugged in, but it actually just empties our tank. And then we're on like running on fumes. And then before you know it, we're crashing out. And it's going to take a lot longer for us to regain that energy and then be ready for the next day. Once you shift to the joy of missing out, you're going to realize that the world is not going to fall apart if you don't check an app for a few hours, if you take a step back. And it's going to be okay. The world's going to keep moving if you've missed something. And you're going to be okay if you've missed something. But there's this paradox of connection, right? Technology promises this endless connection to people. Yet, what a lot of introverts struggle with and what I see online is that we end up feeling more isolated because we're trying to connect to everybody, but then we can't because we can't always be connected and online. And then even when we are, it's kind of like more surface level. It's fast paced, right? It's kind of like a show, right? People are wearing masks. And then it becomes harder to form like these real energizing relationships that we could have in person. And so it's really easy to get to this point where we're not just depleted of energy, we're actually depleted of emotion, right? And we don't want to get into that realm. So how do we disconnect without feeling like we're disappearing as introverts? The first thing is we need to start working on some smart boundaries. So the first thing that we can do is we can start customizing the alerts that we get on our phones or on our computers. And so that could be like, we can let messages come through that are from our loved ones. When it comes to work, the calendar tasks that are important and are immediately relatable and part of your daily work, those need to come through and have an audible alarm. You can silence everything else. Not every notification on your phone needs to come through, right? We can put it in do not disturb mode or silence mode. We can set times. There's lots of different things that we can do on our phones now that we couldn't even do 5 years ago. When it comes to your computer at work, even in whatever type of calendar that you're using for scheduling work, there are ways to turn on and off notifications per calendar event or per item that you have in your block. So start working on customizing what needs to come through and what needs to stay silent. Because we can get into this trap where all these interruptions are really just interruptions, but they're disguising themselves as information that you think is important, but it's actually not. So the next thing is we could start looking at a digital off-ramp, if you will. So this is more like a ritual that you can do every day to power down. So this could be something like no phones at the dinner table. This could be like pick a Saturday or a Sunday, and it's gonna be a no phone day. Or something that's even easier to do is just putting your phone down when you get into bed, right? So you can put it on your nightstand, and once you get in bed, turn the phone over and then don't look at it. That's hard for you to know that it's there, but you're really not supposed to pick it up. Then I would suggest putting it in another room when you go to bed. And that way it's physically out of your viewing area, and we can get away from having a phone in our face and the TV on to just having a TV on without the phone in the room. And then eventually we can even get that TV to turn off. Or best case scenario, we get that TV out of the room, and then you can completely digitally disconnect. The last thing that I would suggest that you do is start auditing the apps that you already have. So you know which ones drain you. You know which ones you're spending the most time on. And then the ones that are leaving you feeling like anxious or irritated or even like overstimulated, even ones that you tend to use at night and they end up keeping you up for multiple hours when you know that you should have been asleep a long time ago. Limit them. It's easier to start by limiting how much time you're on those apps, but if you start limiting yourself, you can slowly start separating yourself from the apps. And then it becomes easier to actually remove them from your phone altogether. If you're not quite ready to remove them from your phone, I would at least move them off of your home screen and like put them in the app library. So it takes you a few extra steps to get to that app rather than it just being available on the first page of your phone. Here's the part that most introverts don't realize, and I've had to learn how to do this over time, and it's taken me a while to do it, but I'm getting better at it. And it's learning how we can disconnect from screens and realize that it's not just removing digital clutter in our lives. We're actually opening and making space for deeper connections and deeper restoration. One of the things that we can do to fill this time, this newfound time that you all of a sudden now have because you're not on your phone or not on an app, is that we can explore and have time to reflect on maybe some things that we would like to do, maybe a new hobby that like we would like to try. So it could be something very low cost or no cost at all, like drawing or reading. We can start gardening, writing, puzzles, any activity that for some of us, we like to use our hands in that activity, like myself. And other people like to have like their brain stimulated, but in a task that is somewhat repetitive, but doesn't really involve a lot of distraction from the outside world, right? It's everything that's contained right in front of us and in our brains, and it's much easier for us to focus on because it can actually give us energy in that respect. The other thing that we can start doing is we can start reconnecting with nature a little bit more. So nature, walking outside, being outside in the environment is a low stimulation environment, right? That we can put ourselves in. And the reason I say low stimulation is that when you walk outside, right, there could be a lot of things going on in terms of like trees and the wind and the sun, the temperature, but in terms of like you being amongst those elements is a lot lower stimulation than having an app open in your face, right? So try to enjoy a 10-minute walk if you can, and it can reset your nervous system. If you don't have time for a 10-minute walk, or you're not really in an area that is suited for walking outside, what I like to do on a daily basis, especially with having a dog that I take care of throughout the day, is just going outside in the backyard, right? So every time the dog goes outside, you go outside with the dog. And then that helps me, get recentered. It helps me calm down during the day, especially between meetings. And then I can go back in and allow myself to re-engage with work, especially in this situation where I work from home, and it's even harder to try to disconnect work from home mentally and physically. The last thing is I want us to start focusing on building deeper and more meaningful conversations. Because if we think about, at the beginning of the video when I was talking about all of these distractions that we're having, when we start to get away from this digital mess, there's a lot more one-on-one interactions that we can have that energize introverts, right? Because we are solely focused and dedicated on one person that ideally is in front of us, right? We're sharing the same space. It's a completely different feeling than being around dozens or hundreds or thousands of people online when you're not really around them, but there's a lot of engagement that you feel like you need to stay caught up on, right? And it's not sustainable. So when you reduce that shallow digital environment, you can make room for these deeper and more fulfilling connections. If you're an introvert, right, living in this hyper-connected world, you don't need to keep up with every notification or every update, right? You need a system that protects your energy, right? It honors who you are as an introvert, and it gives you some space to breathe. All right, so that's it. That's all I have for you. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe and share this video with other people that you think might need it and that might find this beneficial. Right, and if you're looking for some other tools that can help you on your introvert journey, please check out my website, thequietedge.com, where you can get all sorts of resources that are created and curated by me just for you. And if you want something even more specific, we can have one-on-one coaching sessions that are tailored to your specific environment and what you're specifically going through in your career and how we can help you get to the next level. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.